Thank you, Anthony, and thank you, Ian, for introductions. I'm, I think, one of three speakers from DEC here today, and I come from DEC Science and Innovation Group, so my focus in this talk is to talk particularly about the innovation support that we have provided, and perhaps start to think about potential for further innovation support in the future. So, as I just said, I'll give a quick overview of sort of innovation support for energy storage, talk about our DEC innovation competition specifically, and then have a few words about what next, including a shameless plug for our Energy Entrepreneurs Fund, the latest call of which opened yesterday. Okay, so sort of stepping back a little bit in terms of why do we need innovation support for energy storage. Certainly from a sort of DEC perspective and thinking about it, across our innovation support programme, we're very much led by the technology innovation needs assessments that are developed by the Low Carbon Innovation Coordination Group, and the LCICG, another snappy government acronym, is a collection of organisations, in particular funding bodies, that provide funding support and are involved in policy development for low carbon innovation. And they've developed a whole range of these technology innovation needs assessments that look across a whole range of low carbon technologies. They look at where the sort of expected sort of growth areas, how those technology areas might contribute to UK GDP in the future, and then they look at where the needs are in terms of further innovation development and try and identify areas where it might be particularly useful for public sector support to be given to get over market failures and to sort of catalyse future private sector investment. There's all been work, there's a lot of, when we were sort of first thinking about our innovation storage schemes in DEC, there was a lot of attention and interest around the work coming out from Goran Strabak and the team at Imperial, who looked at the role and value of energy storage systems in the UK. And they also highlighted the need for further demonstration and evaluation of storage technologies. Well, certainly in the last year, in the last 12 months, there's been a number of funding bodies and a number of activities which Peter's already alluded to in terms of support and activity in storage innovation. So we've seen from EPSERC, sort of following on from the statement that energy storage was one of these great technologies for the UK. There's been investment from EPSERC of £30 million in 5 sort of facilities, centres that are going to support grid-scale energy storage. We have the ETI isentropic project underway for a while now. We've already had a great insight from Peter in terms of the activities from Ofgem's Low Carbon Network Fund, so I won't say any more about those. There are further TSB calls, which I'll refer to at the end, and then our own innovation support programmes, which I will say quite a bit more on in a few minutes. There's also been activity in Europe, part of the European Electricity Grid Initiative. The European Commission went out to all the EU countries and asked them for information about energy storage projects that are underway, research and development that's planned. I think that the detailed mapping work is still underway, but certainly the results that came in identified more than 500 R&D projects looking at various aspects of energy storage and pulling together a Europe-wide budget of nearly 900 million euros, and I suspect that's probably growing all the time. So DEC's innovation programme. We've had our innovation programme has been underway for just over 2 years now. Our aims are to help to deliver the UK's 2050 climate change targets and energy security objectives cost effectively by helping to ensure that we've got energy innovation happening at the right time, help to bring down costs and help to provide further opportunities for new technologies to play a real role in securing these targets. So in terms of DEC, we will focus on technologies, low carbon technology areas where there are market failures, and our programmes are intended to to intervene where we'll have the greatest impact on meeting the climate change objectives and DEC's energy objectives, energy security objectives. And we work alongside the other funding bodies to sort of see what they're doing, to see where the gaps are, to see whether we can collaborate. If you sort of look at us and the LCNF projects, for example, I think we work quite in a sort of fairly complementary fashion in that in DEC we're probably able to be take a few more risks in terms of the technology areas that we support, so supporting technologies that are at an earlier stage and take those forward to a point where potentially they're picked up by the DNOs and implemented. In terms of DEC's overall innovation funding, we have about £200 million earmarked for spend on low carbon innovation in the current spending review period, which takes us up to the end of March 2015. And a nice complicated slide that just sort of shows where that 200 million is distributed. And I did actually add it up this morning to see if it got to 200 million, and I think there's a bit of sort of overlap and a little of jiggly-poggly with the numbers, but it does come to 200. I mean, you can see the sort of spread of activity we've got underway. Programs looking at CCS technologies, for example, buildings innovation, sort of advanced heat storage, looking at materials, particularly for heat storage in sort of domestic settings. Quite a large chunk going to offshore wind technologies, both DEC's own scheme, which I help to manage, and some work that's run directly through the Carbon Trust. We have bioenergy schemes, particularly run with a European programme. We have our electricity storage schemes, which I'll talk about more, some nuclear research, and our sort of coverall Energy Entrepreneurs Fund, which again I'll say a bit more at the end. And as I said, we've had the latest call of the Energy Entrepreneurs Funds just opened. So in terms of our support for energy storage specifically, we launched 2 energy support schemes in October 2012. We had a component research and feasibility study scheme. And I would say that usually DEC's innovation support scheme operates at around technology readiness level 6, so at the point where people sort of have products that are being sort of tested and developed. But our component research and feasibility study scheme definitely operates at a sort of lower technology level on the whole. So we felt there was a need, and there were we could see that there were opportunities and need for input to fund some very earlier stage energy storage research, as it says, at the component level, and also some more sort of industrial process research to sort of enabling research to help look at activities and processes that can help to get to greater deployment of energy storage systems. In parallel with that, we opened our technology demonstration competition. This is it's a procurement competition rather than our more standard grant provided competition. So it's run on the SBRI model, and we have up to £17 million available for demonstration projects. Both of the schemes, both the competitions are expected to generate learning and very much practical experience to improve confidence in electricity storage systems, to reduce future costs of energy storage systems, and that in turn both of those are intended to help stimulate further private sector investment. Okay, so I don't think you'll be able to read that at the back. You might be able to read it at the front, but I've got a couple of slides here which sort of outline the funding that we've got in place under our component research and feasibility study scheme. So we've got 7 projects at the component research level. We've got a project run by AMT Cybex, which is really I'm thinking of Peter's sort of triangle of the different sort of levels of sort of technology needs, and the AMT Cybex multiple asset smart storage system is intended to be an optimization and control system that can manage multiple storage assets on the network to really meet a variety of different energy storage needs and optimize those from the different storage solutions available. We have a project from CTech Innovation running with the University of Southampton and Warwick University, which are really working very much at the sort of component level, looking at improvements to a soluble lead redox flow battery. We have a project with ITM Power, where they're working on developing and testing a novel alkaline electrolyser for a reversible electrolyser or fuel cell application for energy storage. And working with Quarry Battery Company, which is looking at possibilities for new scope for pump storage in the UK. So looking at what the potential is in the UK for non-conventional sites, sort of novel sites where pump storage could be a reality. And Quarry Battery Company, in the course of last year, secured planning permission for its first sort of, demonstration of a more novel application. In the second call of projects for the component scheme, we had 3 further projects that we're taking forwards. The Good Practice Guide, which Peter's already spoken about, led by EA Technology, working with the 6 DNO ESOF members and National Grid and the Energy Networks Association. I don't think I need to say any more about that, but I think will be very, again, one of these sort of more underpinning, cross-cutting areas of work to sort of thinking out help deployment of energy storage systems. And there's a project with Kiwa Gas Tech, who are investigating the use of hydrogen as an energy storage vector. And they are really sort of investigating some of the safety aspects of introducing hydrogen within the existing UK gas network. They have a house in the north of Scotland somewhere where they're sort of testing leakage and sort of leakage properties of hydrogen at certain proportions in the gas flow. And a project with Sharp Laboratories of Europe working with SME Faradian, which is looking to develop and scale up new battery technologies for the smaller scale, for sort of residential, community scale storage systems. In terms of our larger demonstration competition, this was a project, it's a competition run with 2 phases. So we had a first phase which took forward 12 projects to a feasibility stage. And they are listed there. And again, I'm not going to run through them all, but we were pleased to have a very good range of sort of types of technology that came forwards. So we have a couple of mechanical systems. We had a flywheel technology coming from ETC. We had a marvellous system for sort of taking, instead of pumping water, sort of shifting gravel up hillsides. We have a case system with BNI Energy and Light Sail. We had a power-to-gas system with some fascinating microbes that could generate to carry out biological methanation. A number of smaller battery systems, which we'll talk about in a moment. Vanadium redox flow battery, 2 of the cryogenic energy systems. Have I covered sort of all the areas? I think that's all the sort of types of technology encompassed there. Obviously very different scales of projects, really wide range of companies and partner organisations. It's a very sort of exciting stage to see all the ideas and the projects that were coming forwards. From those initial 12 feasibility projects, we've been going on to select projects to take forward to the demonstration phase, phase 2. We've actually announced 3 of those now. Moixa Technology Project, Red Tea Project, and a project led by Evaluate Transport Innovations. The third project from our technology demonstration competition that we've announced so far is a project from led by Evaluate Transport Innovations. And it's a consortium project, it's the Everest Consortium. I've always wondered, I must ask them one day how long it took them to come up with the Everest acronym, but it's the Electric Vehicle Embedded Renewable Energy Storage and Transmission System. And it's a modular battery storage solution. Part of that storage is coming from batteries, end-of-life batteries from electric vehicles. And the particular application that they're then applying it to is to use the electrical storage system to support fast charging infrastructure, plug-in vehicle charging infrastructure for electric vehicles. Again, there are many situations across the UK where there's a desire to implement the fast charging infrastructure, but there are grid constraints that are preventing it happening in a sensible way, an economic way. Now, at the very bottom there, you might just about see a question mark. If you've done a little bit of totting up of our numbers on the right, you'll see that the contracts we've awarded so far come to around 7 million without that. And so that's quite a gap between where we are there and the upper ceiling that we announced for our overall competition. So we will be announcing one further project. I suspect quite a lot of you in this room know what it is. It's a big project and it's not a battery. And in a sort of our possibly, I'm not sure if it's our particular department, I suspect it's across government, we tend to put press notices together in clusters like buses. So in about a couple of weeks' time, there'll be an announcement coming out from the Low Carbon Innovation Coordination Group and a new innovation strategy document. And that's a convenient point at which to speak about particular innovation projects. So watch that space for further details about the question mark at the bottom. Okay, I mentioned the Energy Entrepreneurs Fund. So as well as the funding that's gone for the storage projects from our specific storage schemes, there was obviously quite a lot of interest and applications from energy storage projects to the Entrepreneurs Fund, and I've just identified 4 projects which are already being supported by the Entrepreneurs Fund with storage relevant to storage. So a couple of projects looking at flywheels, one from Williams Grand Prix, which is a stationary flywheel storage project working with the University of Sheffield. And secondly, a project from Cress, which is developing a storage system which specifically they found a very sort of niche but actually quite sizable application using a regenerative energy from those huge container handling cranes that you get at the shipping ports. There's also support going to passive systems for a project to integrate their sort of demand response and demand sort of control platform with in-home storage and generation. And a project for Kiwi Power, which is one of the new aggregators, help sort of support development of their demand response services, which can include energy storage. So a few thoughts about what next. So in terms of further innovation support, from DEC, and I will say a few more final words, I shall finish on, as I say, a plug for the Energy Entrepreneurs Fund. Later school just open now. We've got the Low Carbon Innovation Coordination Group Innovation Strategy coming out in a couple of weeks. There are TSB calls that have been announced, which will be focusing on sort of local and community scale systems and integrated approaches, of which energy storage could well be a part of the solution in those calls. We are now, in terms of our funding round in government, I mentioned at the beginning, we're in a spending review period that will finish at the end of March 2015. So now is the time when we're trying to pull together our bids and our thoughts on what spending might be required for the next spending review period, which will be after the next election. We will pull together sort of information and evidence that we have from our existing programmes, but we are always interested, and as we develop the existing competitions, we spoke to the Energy Storage Network and to many of you here who are members about where you felt there was a need for innovation support, and we continue to be interested, and perhaps if you have suggestions you want to put forwards in the question session, or if you want to nab me later on during the day and say, well, I really think there should be more support in this area, then it's a sort of good point in the spending review period to talk to us about ideas about where next. There's some work going on in DEC in terms of better understanding of the balancing system needs. It's being led by our engineering team. And I think as that progresses, again, we'll probably want to have more discussion with members here about sort of the likely key storage needs in both the shorter and the longer terms. I think it's been interesting, certainly internally in DEC. I've been very conscious in the last few months of, and it has really been in the last few months, of the sudden interest from our solar PV team, who are kind of suddenly going, oh, right, energy storage, right, what can it do for us? Where is it? Where can I buy it? Just what's out there next? What's coming next? So that's it's a real up and, yes, coming area at the moment, as probably you are more aware than I am. Okay, so, as I said, finally my plug for the Entrepreneurs Fund. That's a bit more information. So it's a very broad fund. I'm just jumping to the bottom. So it covers pretty much any low carbon technologies, including energy storage and including, again, sort of enabling processes or technologies for the electricity network, which would help to support the deployment of storage technologies or other generation technologies. The fourth call opened yesterday. It is a very tight turnaround period. If you're interested, have a look online. The web address is at the bottom there, and I'm sure these slides will be going out afterwards, so you can pick up the details of the web addresses. If you're interested, you need to register by the 17th of February, and the applications have to be submitted by the end of the following week, by the 24th of February. So it is a tight deadline, but to incentivise you, there's a final up to £10 million remaining in the fund. Open for projects. Okay, and that was it. And I have some email sites at the end, which again will be more useful if you get the slide pack around. And that's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sam.